Ladies and gentlemen, today, we bring you shattering news that's going to completely change the dynamics of the ongoing conflict. You've been wondering about the F-16S, the legendary fighter jets that the West said would change everything for Ukraine. And you've been asking, where is Russia's response? Why haven't we seen Russia bring out the Kinzhal missiles in full force? Well, get ready because the game has just changed. Russia has made its move in a way that no one expected, a massive strike that is going to send ripples through Ukraine and its NATO allies. As Mr. Douglas Macgregor has often pointed out, the West's overestimation of its capabilities and underestimation of Russia's precision and resolve is now coming back to haunt them. This is the moment that proves Russia is not backing down, and their response will be decisive. Earlier this afternoon, Russia executed a truly massive, strategic and precise attack that left no room for error. We're talking about the use of 4 Kinzhal missiles. Yes, 4 of Russia's most advanced hypersonic weapons, each more valuable than several Iskanders combined. This wasn't just a show of force. It was a carefully calculated operation aimed at completely obliterating key Ukrainian military assets. And it wasn't just the Kinzhals. The strike was supported by a swarm of UAVs. That's right, a whole swarm creating confusion in the skies of Ukraine while the Kinzhals zeroed in on their targets. Now let's be clear on the significance of this. The Kinzhal missile is no ordinary weapon. It travels at Mach 10, that's 12,000 kilometers per hour. These hypersonic speeds make it virtually unstoppable and impossible to intercept. Ukraine's air defenses were helpless. Imagine trying to stop a missile traveling 10 times faster than sound. It's a feat no modern system can achieve, and this wasn't just one missile, it was 4 of them. And why is that important? Because each Kinzhal missile cost $10 million, meaning Russia didn't hold back here. No half measures. $40 million worth of missiles were launched, and each one was aimed with surgical precision at a highly critical target in the Khmelnytsky region. Russia isn't wasting these missiles on random targets. No, this was a carefully coordinated strike with a clear objective: wipe out Ukraine's prized military assets. What's more, the use of UAVs created even more confusion. Drones were flying everywhere, drawing attention and likely confusing Ukrainian defenses. And when you pair that with the speed of the Kinzhals, it's a deadly combination that leaves no room for escape. Ukrainian forces didn't stand a chance. Now let's get to the heart of the matter, the F-16S. Yes, those celebrated, invincible, all-powerful American fighter jets that Ukraine was supposed to use to change the course of the conflict. According to multiple sources, including some Ukrainian ones, though they are strangely not making this official, the Russian strike at the Khmelnytsky airport may have wiped out 4 F-16S in a single blow. Think about that for a moment. What does this mean for Ukraine? Well, let's break it down. An F-16 costs upwards of $64 million per unit. That's over $250 million worth of aircraft wiped out in a matter of minutes. These were not just any F-16S either. These were fresh deliveries from the Netherlands, meant to give Ukraine a fighting chance in the skies. But guess what? Before they could even take flight, they were destroyed on the ground by Russia's hypersonic missiles. And it doesn't stop there. The strike didn't just take out these jets, but according to reports, up to 11 Ukrainian pilots and engineers were also killed in this attack. Now, we're not just talking about the loss of equipment, we're talking about the loss of highly trained personnel, people who are difficult, if not impossible, to replace in the middle of a war. This is a devastating blow to Ukraine's Air Force, and to its ability to operate the Western-donated jets. The destruction of 4 F-16S doesn't just hit Ukraine's military capabilities, it's a symbolic blow. It proves that even with all the Western military aid, Russia's precision strikes can obliterate those assets in an instant. But let's not forget, this isn't just about the F-16S. This is about showing that even Ukraine's most treasured assets, their most high-profile pieces of military equipment, aren't safe from Russia's strikes. For those who still believe these Western weapons can turn the tide, this is a wake-up call. The F-16S, which the West has poured millions and millions into, are not untouchable. In fact, they are now nothing more than scrap metal. But this story doesn't end here. No. The destruction goes beyond just the F-16S. Russia's strike hit other critical targets too. Now, if you thought the F-16S were the only casualties in this massive strike, you'd be mistaken. The Kinzhals also targeted a Su-24 bomber, which had been upgraded by Ukraine to carry British-supplied Storm Shadow missiles. These missiles, which were meant to give Ukraine the ability to strike deep into Russian territory, didn't even make it off the ground. The Su-24 was obliterated before it could take off. Let's talk about those Storm Shadow missiles for a moment. These aren't cheap, folks. Each one costs around $2.5 million. According to reports, a storage facility containing 12 of these missiles was destroyed in this attack. That's $30 million in precision-guided weapons vaporized in a single strike. These missiles, touted by the West as game-changers for Ukraine's military, were reduced to nothing before they could be used. This is a massive blow not just to Ukraine but to the Western nations that are supplying these arms. And it's not just about the money. It's about what these weapons represent. The Storm Shadows were supposed to be a key part of Ukraine's counteroffensive, enabling them to hit Russian positions from a distance. Now they've lost an entire batch of them, and who knows how many more will follow. Once again, the West's expensive, high-tech toys are no match for Russia's precision strikes. Ukraine is losing not just equipment, but its ability to fight a modern war. The Su-24, gone. The Storm Shadows, gone. And all this before they could even launch a single missile. Ukraine is being pushed further and further back, while the West continues to pour in more money and equipment into a bottomless pit. And while we're on the topic of Western military failures, let's talk about the bigger picture of the geopolitical landscape is being reshaped by this conflict. As Colonel Douglas Macgregor has often warned, the West is playing a very dangerous game by continuing to escalate tensions with Russia. Recent events have shown that Russia is not shy about reminding the world of its nuclear capabilities. Just recently, Russian state media broadcast a chilling simulation of a nuclear strike on London. A direct message to NATO, showing what could happen if this conflict spirals out of control. And make no mistake, this is a real and serious reminder of what's at stake. With over 6,000 nuclear warheads at Russia's disposal, this isn't a threat that NATO can afford to take lightly. While the Western media tries to downplay the significance of this simulation, the reality is clear. Russia is prepared for all-out war if NATO continues to escalate the situation. And let's not forget, nuclear deterrence has been a cornerstone of Russia's military doctrine for decades. This simulation wasn't just a bluff, it was a stark reminder of what could happen if the West keeps pushing its luck. The West is scrambling right now, unsure of how to proceed. On the one hand, they want to continue supporting Ukraine. But on the other hand, they're now faced with the very real possibility of a nuclear escalation. It's a dangerous game they're playing, and the consequences of making the wrong move could be catastrophic for the entire world. So while NATO holds its breath wondering what the next step should be, Russia has made its position crystal clear. If NATO keeps escalating, the response could be nuclear. And let's face it, are they really willing to go that far for Ukraine? Because one wrong move and the consequences could extend far beyond Eastern Europe. While NATO worries about nuclear fallout, Ukraine's forces are struggling on the ground in ways that show just how dire the situation has become. According to reports, Ukraine is suffering upwards of 1,000 casualties per week. That's 4,000 soldiers a month. And this is on top of the heavy equipment losses they're facing. Their military is being worn down at an alarming rate, and the flow of Western weapons isn't doing enough to stem the tide. The reality is that Ukraine is losing ground faster than it can recover. And this isn't just a temporary setback. This is a long-term strategic collapse. Despite NATO's best efforts and all the money and military aid, Ukraine is still crumbling under the pressure of Russia's military machine. And what's NATO's answer to this? More weapons, more promises, more hope. But the truth is, Ukraine's forces are being decimated, and at this rate, they won't be able to hold the line much longer. The West may be throwing billions into Ukraine, but what good is all that if Ukraine can't even maintain a functioning army? And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for Ukraine, let's turn to the final blow delivered by Russia's most recent strikes. And if you thought Ukraine's losses were limited to F-16S and Storm Shadow missiles, think again. Russia has just crippled another key part of Ukraine's warfighting capability. This afternoon, Russia launched a massive attack on the Motor Sich factory, where Ukraine produces engines for its UAVs. The result? The destruction of 250 drones. Yes, you heard that right. 250 drones all wiped out in a single strike. This is a massive setback for Ukraine, as these drones were a crucial part of their reconnaissance and strike capabilities. Losing 250 UAVs in one blow severely cripples Ukraine's ability to monitor Russian movements and conduct strikes of their own. And remember, these weren't just cheap throwaway drones. Many of them were high-tech, Western-supplied UAVs designed to give Ukraine an edge in the skies. Now they're nothing but debris. And what's even more interesting is how Russia pulled this off. They used relatively inexpensive glide bombs, cost-effective weapons that still pack a devastating punch. So while NATO is funneling billions into Ukraine, Russia is using cost-efficient strategies to deliver catastrophic blows to their enemy. So there you have it, Ukraine's drone program, which was supposed to give them an edge in this conflict, has been gutted. And with it, Ukraine's ability to wage effective war is slipping further out of reach. Russia, once again, has shown that it can deliver devastating blows with far less financial investment than the West is pouring into Ukraine. As Colonel Douglas Macgregor has said, the West's continued support of Ukraine is leading to diminishing returns, and Russia's ability to strike decisive blows will only become more apparent. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The F-16S destroyed, Storm Shadow missiles wiped out, Ukraine's UAV capabilities gone, and Russia stronger than ever, sending a clear message to NATO, Ukraine, and the world: they are not backing down. The question isn't whether Ukraine can win anymore, it's how much longer they can hold out before the entire house of cards collapses. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates as this conflict continues to unfold.